In 1999, the Edison Dye Lifetime Achievement Award was created. It was named the Edison Dye Lifetime Achievement Award in 2001. Its initial recipient was Roger DeCoster, and the award has been given to many riders, industry professionals, race team managers, and promoters. This award had a special place in its founder's heart, Tom White. Before his passing, he made it clear to us who he wanted the award to go to. Therefore, this year we are proud to announce that the Edison Dye Lifetime Achievement Award for 2018 is Motocross Action Editor-in-Chief Jody Weisel.
Everyone knows that he means a lot to motocross. To me, it's about what that man has done to the whole magazine business. What he was to Motocross Action was everything. I came from a staff that had about 6 people. He was looking at me going like, well, why do you really need more than one person to do a magazine? And that's the way Jody approached everything. It just meant I had to hustle. I had to produce more work just because Jody could.
He's obviously had some very big inventions, so to speak, with the tailgate extender and lots of things that people not even aware that he's had his hands in. But you know, he's always sees the whole industry in his own unique way, and he's been able to help lots of just individual people as well as industries and to shape certain products, and there's been a lot.
He's a guy that hasn't stopped. He loves motocross. It's more than a job to him. It's a passion and a quiet thinker, so he thinks outside the box. He thinks a lot of different ways. He's very stern and looks at bikes and analyzes bikes, and he's very firm on testing. He doesn't believe in one-day tests. He believes bikes should hold up. He sticks to his word. He hammers manufacturers and products, and people are intimidated by him, but that's also made the industry step up their durability, their quality, the way they do things.
He was looking for a motorcycle that was 100% there. No changes needed, could be perfect, which in my opinion, none of the motorcycles, ours or our competitors, existed. He had a way that he could find all these little bits and pieces that needed to be changed. He hurt our sales sometimes, and there were other times he made our sales good. Helped me a couple times. One as an example, he pointed out to me the Yamaha, well, he said it took forever to, if you were working on it at a race, it took a bucket of tools. And whereas a Honda, you only needed 2 or 3 wrenches. You know, he was talking about detailing. So we followed up on that, and we did that, and we actually changed to where we only took 2 or 3 wrenches, not the bucket full. Jody, I would say, he's responsible for that push.
It was about going out, riding, racing dirt bikes. It's amazing what you've done for the sport in general by attracting people, keeping them, you know, interested in the sport through the highs, the lows, 2 strokes, 4 strokes, EFI, air forks, you name it. You've covered it all. You've done so with truth and honesty, and the only way that you know how to do that. So.
I met Jody in the late 70s. One weekend I was racing and my Mako broke. And Jody said, hey, you can ride one of my bikes. As memory served, I rode it and thought it was a piece of junk compared to my Mako. But Jody said, why don't you start riding my bikes for me and kind of give me an idea of what you think about how the bikes work. The first weekend that I rode, I came in and I go, man, this bike is really good. And Jody goes, well, why do you say it was really good? And I said, well, I won. And he said, well, that isn't telling me why the bike was really good. So through the 25 years that I tested bikes for MXA, Jody taught me how to pay attention to the different parts of the bike. Through all those years with Jody's very analytical and unemotional view of the bikes, which he still continues today, he weighs how each and every component works, and he taught me that's how you really test a bike. I owe Jody everything about learning how to test motorcycles.
He kept a book on all the changes. I could appreciate what he did as far as that in his procedures. Anytime you asked him, he could give you any feedback on any year bike most of the other editors didn't do.
He's like a walking encyclopedia not only when it comes to the history of motocross, you can ask him about obscure riders. He really knows his stuff when it comes to setting up motorcycles and what makes them run right.
It's always good to share just the comments and the understanding, and having a guy that really has such a deep knowledge of how a machine works. It'd definitely catch you if you were BSing. Stood out in my mind how clever and sharp he was that he could hang on to that information. I thought I was the only geek that knew all that stuff.
Decades of riding multiple production bikes, works bikes, factory bikes. I don't know too many people that have as much background or knowledge. So when Jody writes a test, he goes way back. Every model, every bike, Jody's rode it.
He's the GOAT of testing. He's probably ridden every bike under the sun since probably the 60s. So it's amazing his wealth of knowledge, what he recalls on bikes from 20, 30 years ago, and how he can apply that information to bike tests today. That's the mark he certainly leaves on the sport.
Yeah, I had a special name for Jody. I called him Bon Jody. Would sort of smile when I would say that. I called him that because of the fact that I had a lot of respect for him and for what he did. I just gave him that special little nickname, especially because of what he achieved.
What has Jody taught me? How to read and write, mostly. One time we were living together and we were arguing, and I says, I had to knock you out. He says, go ahead. He says, because what I write in that next story will last a lifetime.
He loves to tell the story of how I turned down a Honda factory ride that he helped me get through Mitch. And of course, my side of it, it was just a donated test bike, and a controversy that will go on forever and ever as to who's right.
Well, in the old days, my brother and I would pick him up with our motorhome and a trailer behind, and we'd go to the Golden State races. So we went to a Golden State race that was canceled at the original track because it had been pouring down rain for a week. And we drove all the way up there and started driving into this muddy dirt road to get to the track, and guys were coming down from the track because it was too muddy to race. And Jody said, floor it and make a U-turn. So I'm out in this field with a motorhome and a Pro Track trailer, and we're spinning this donut. We get back on the road, get on the highway, and drive home, and that's the last race Jody ever went to outside of Southern California.
I'm at REM, and Jody comes up and says, hey Rich, why don't you take this 17 KTM out for a couple practice laps? Really? He says, yeah, go ahead. So I take this KTM out, and oh my God, what a motorcycle. I come in and say, yeah, Jody, that thing's pretty nice. Because of Jody, I'm on the way home in my van, and I dial up my wife and say, honey, get out the checkbook. We're gonna go buy a brand new bike tomorrow. We gotta get a 17 KTM, and it's all Jody's fault.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time with him, you know, lovely Luella, yelling at him for drinking soda, and me and Jody sneaking off to McDonald's to get Coke, or landing in the parking lot at Glen Helen in your airplane, buzzing the track. And he's used me for a lot of years as giving me the hard time in the group, likes to pick on me. He has one-liners with very difficult comebacks for him.
One thing that most people are going to be very surprised about my statement here is if you don't know Jody or just only know him from the magazine, you don't realize that Jody has a heart of gold. And I know that's kind of a shocker, but I can assure you that Jody has done so many things behind the scenes for riders, people that are a little down on their luck or in a bad situation. Jody has always reached out to them and let them ride a magazine bike or just gave them the support they needed at the time. And Jody is a very private person, and he would never share that with anybody, but I've known him for 40 years and he has a heart of gold.
We both wanted the same thing, 100% bike, which is impossible to achieve. He taught me to appreciate his editorials, what he did for the magazine, because basically he made motocross action what it is today, in my opinion.
I'm really proud that I've gotten to know him. I know Tom wanted to pick Jody for this a couple years ago, and Tom, in starting the World Vets and starting the Edison Dye Award along with Bud Feldkamp, I just couldn't be prouder of those two guys, and I couldn't be prouder of Jody for being chosen as the recipient for this year.
You know, Jody's that guy that I don't think very many people recognize how much he's helped individuals through the years. was. You know, for me, when I was starting my company, Dubach Racing Development, he's truly a guy that would, you know, just selflessly help individuals because he'd like to see them succeed because it just helped the overall industry.
Keeping up with Jody, it's not easy. I see him every weekend at the track, and you can always count on him to put things in perspective. It pushes us all in the magazine business to try a little harder, do a little better. To me, he is what defines a good magazine editor and a good journalist.
We did a lot of traveling together. We're roommates for years. He's just been a great friend of mine for most of my life.
He treats everybody equal. You know, he's quiet and he's hard on even his friends, or Jody's got a big heart, will do anything for his friends. He's helped me and my family tremendous over the years. All around good guy, really has helped the sport. Keep pushing motocross and sticking to the same routine.
I teach my kids this now, is that if my hands are full, your hands better be full. If Jody's working his butt off like he always does, then I'd better sure be working my butt off to try and keep up with him. It's great that people see the mark that you have left on the sport, what you have accomplished, what you've taught so many generations of people. Thank you and congratulations.
Jody Weisel is the longest running editor of any magazine at over 40 years. Jody has ridden every manufacturer's bike for the last 40 years. No other person holds that title. He is arguably one of the most respected editors in the motocross industry. Congratulations, Jody Weisel, on being this year's 2018 Edison Dye Lifetime Achievement Award recipient.